I just finished an Ice Planet Barbarians book and it was so good.
What was it called?
Barbarians something.
B has just realized that she can't remember the title of the Ice Planet Barbarians book she just read. But she's not alone, and now there's a number to call for help. 1-800-555-7787. That's 1-800-555-SPUR. Hello, IPB Helpline. How can I be of service?
Yes, hello. I read an Ice Planet Barbarians book recently and I really enjoyed it, but I can't remember the title.
Can you tell me a little bit about the book, ma'am? I mean, miss.
There's a cinnamon roll hero.
Uh-huh.
Or he's got a rough exterior, but he's a cinnamon roll at heart.
Uh-huh.
And a human woman.
Uh-huh.
And it's on an ice planet.
Ma'am, you barely narrowed it down at all.
Okay, well, they resonate.
Uh-huh.
And he refers to a certain part of her body as a...
Stop! Ma'am, adorable aliens are allowed to say that. You are not allowed to say that. It's almost endearing when they say that word, but in any other context, it is filthy.
Okay, good point, good point.
Anything else?
Have I narrowed it down at all?
Well, it's either Barbarian's Prize, Barbarian's Mate, Barbarian's Touch, Barbarian's Taming, Barbarian's Heart, Barbarian's Hope, Barbarian's Redemption, Barbarian's Lady, Barbarian's Rescue, Barbarian's Tease, Barbarian's Beloved, Barbarian's Valentine, Barbarian's Seduction, Barbarian's Treasure, or Barbarian's Bride.
Oh, I just remembered. She has twins.
Oh, then it's Ice Ice Babies.
Hi, my name's Bea, and welcome to my channel, Mama Needs to Read Romance, and hope that you appreciated this joke even if you've never read the series. I'm so excited to tell you about my July reads. Let's just get to the stats, shall we? Again, I'm on limited time, so I'm going to do this as quickly as I can. In the month of July, I read 4 contemporary romances, 3 women's fiction, 7 historical romances, 3 alien romances, and 1 YA romance, for a total of 18 books. New to me authors included Elle Cosmano, D.G. Driver, Amanda Quain, Addie Duloc, Molly James, and Carly Fortune. Talking about the ratings, I had 1 6-star book, 3 5-star books, 1 4.5-star book, 7 4-star books, 2 3.5-star books, 1 2.5-star book, 2 2-star books, and 1 1-star book. My first book, my 6th star of the month of July, was a reread for the Summer of Tessa read-along, The Duchess Deal. It's book 1 of the Girl Meets Duke series. It's a Beauty and the Beast retelling. It is one of the funniest historical romances I've ever read that also had me in tears because of its sweetness. A must-read for anyone who is a historical romance fan or is considering becoming one. My first 5-star romance, Say Yes to the Marquis. I think I pronounced that correctly. We have a gorgeous step back as well. We have Rafe and Cleo. Cleo is engaged to Rafe's brother, but they have been engaged for 8 years and Pierce, the brother, is just nowhere to be found. She wants out of the marriage. She has her own castle. She's ready to move on with a brewery. Pierce's boxer brother, Rafe, has been secretly pining for her for a long time. She tries to get him to sign the papers needed to get her out of the marriage. As they spend time together, sparks fly. This book again was filled with heart and also hilarity. Can't recommend it highly enough. Another 5-star for me, Castles Ever After, book 3. Maddie is an introvert. She does not want to be part of society, so she makes up a fictional man and writes to him, lets everybody know that she's betrothed, and then actually kills him off. And is even more surprised years later when this fictional man she's been writing to turns up at her doorstep. This book was so much fun. I loved how they brought out the best in one another. Very unique, very original, lots of characters to love. 5 stars. My last 5-star book had me in tears at the end. It's book 3 of the Girl Meets Duke series by Tessa Dare. These are all Tessa Dare so far. I've actually got 2 covers I want to show you. I have this one with the step back, and of course we're gonna glance at it. It's so cute. This one, I couldn't help myself. I know you've probably already seen this in one of my videos, but I just love it so much. It's apparently a British copy, which is pretty cool. But let's talk about what this is about. We have Lady Penelope Campion and Gabriel Duke. He's the first gentleman in the Girl Meets Duke series who isn't actually a duke, except that his last name is Duke. He actually is called the Duke of Ruin. He likes to bring people down. He wants to get her out of the way for a real estate reason. She's not going anywhere because she's got so many animals. And as they work together to help her put her animals somewhere, which was all kinds of adorable, by the way, they wind up falling for each other. The backstories in here are very intense for a Tessa Dare, but they were really deep. On a reread, I liked it even more than the first time because it seemed like it was less out of left field because I'm used to more lighthearted when I read Tessa Dare. Another reason I love this, by the way, is we get to see all of the characters from the series come back, and the gentlemen especially, the way they interact. It's just had me chuckling so hard. So gotta try this one out if you're gonna read the Girl Meets Duke series. My only 4.5 stars is, surprise, surprise, a Tessa Dare. It's the Governess Game, and we're of course gonna look at the step back. I love it so much. This guy's super hot. I don't always think that, but I really think he's really cute. Anyway, so I really love this book. The only reason I didn't give it a perfect 5 stars is that, and we talked about this in our last live show for the read along, and I'll link it right here actually, from Rachel's channel of Rachel Reads and Sings. She's so amazing, and I love that read along so much. This guy keeps breaking things off with her, and he's so indecisive, which drove me crazy, but otherwise I adored this book so much. We have a guy who has 2 little girls that they can't keep a nanny. They're not his children. We're not sure how they're related, but this gal winds up needing a job. She's had a crush on him for a while. Again, we've got a lot of humor and some serious backstories. Not quite as serious as in the Wallflower Wager, but very good, very deep, and I just loved it. So 4.5 stars. I gave this one 4 stars, beach read. This was a little heavier than most books that I read by Emily Henry. Her backstory as well as their research. Let me explain. Our heroine is a writer and so is our hero. They're both kind of stuck and they have beach houses beside one another. They're both dealing with pretty intense things. There is a book that he's researching for. It deals with a cult, so he's talking to people that were in this cult, which was pretty intense. And things that went on with her family also a little bit heavier than what I normally read with Emily Henry. But we see these 2 enemies work together. They are trying to write books to get over their slumps by writing in the other person's genre, which was pretty neat to see. I found it to be a beautiful slow burn that was deep and again had me crying. I was boo-hooing at parts. So if you're into that kind of thing, I highly recommend this book. Another kind of heavier book, Finlay Donovan is killing it. I buddy read this with V, who is the sassy library fox. I just love her. We actually decided we're gonna buddy read the entire series. This one was so much fun. It's women's fiction. We have a woman who, she is suffering. She's an author who cannot get a break. She's got 2 kids. Her ex-husband is threatening to take the kids away, and she is in a desperate conversation with her editor inside a Panera, which is like a restaurant. And another woman overhears her talking about this crime book that Finlay is trying to write. Well, this woman misunderstands and thinks that Finlay Donovan is a hitman, or hit woman, I should say. Through some madcap shenanigans, Finlay, I don't even want to tell you what happens. My mouth was dropping. It was craziness. I really enjoyed it to the point where, yeah, V and I decided we're going to read the entire series. But yes, it is not for the faint of heart. It is not strictly romance. There is romance in the book. Lots of fun, really crazy. Not a heroine that you want to have as your best friend for sure. She's kind of interesting, but I enjoyed it. I also gave 4 stars to Ice Planet Barbarians book number 16, Barbarian's Beloved. We have Ariana, who deals with anxiety, and her man, Zelaya, is just perfect for her. He's a cinnamon roll hero who really knows how to make her feel safe and secure, and I loved seeing the 2 of them together. The other thing I'd love to see is how this book was able to bring worlds together. It actually is a dual timeline. We go back in time to when they first fell in love, which was really fun because they're from the old school, like right when the series began. So we get to see the caves again. We get to see a lot of characters that aren't really together yet, knowing that they're going to be couples later was really fun. And also this book is neat because Zelaya and Ariana are apart, which is why Ariana is reflecting on their relationship. She's really missing him. He is off with Veronica and Ashtar, who are from book 2 of the Ice Home series. So it was really neat how this book brought a bunch of other books together. I loved getting to see their son, Anale, who seems to have a 6th sense and can see the future, which was really neat too. I'm curious to see how he factors into stories in the future, but I found this to be a really nice story. Great look back at 2 different series. My 4 star is actually Castles Ever After book 4, but also Spindle Cove book 5. It's a crossover. We've got somebody from Castles Ever After and somebody from Spindle Cove, which was really cool. Let's look at the step back here for Do You Want to Start a Scandal? I should probably mention the title of the book, right? Not that you can't read the title. We have Pierce. This poor thing was dumped for his boxer brother in Say Yes to the Marquis. He's a spy. She knows that he's not going to be interested in her. She knows her mother has designs on him because of his title, and she tries to warn him off, and then it sort of backfires in her face. There's all sorts of intrigue and hilarity. I gave this 4 stars because it did bring the love, it brought the spice, it brought the humor. He's got an interesting backstory story, which does make you feel for him, but I found his personality to be kind of lackluster. Otherwise, though, everything else was fantastic. So 4 stars. Yet another 4-star, The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren. I loved reading this in the summertime because it's set in beautiful Maui. We have the maid of honor and the best man. They hate one another and they wind up going on this paid-for honeymoon because the bride and groom got sick during the reception from food poisoning. So our maid of honor and our best man get to go in their stead. Initially, they really hate one another, but over time, you can imagine what happens. I would have given this a full 5 stars because it was really deep. It was really interesting. I had a lot of fun. I enjoyed all the characters, all of the family members as well, and how tight-knit they were. But there's a lot of bickering and there's cheating and there is some awkward moments between 2 characters. I don't want to say who because I think it'll mess up the story if you haven't read this yet, because I do recommend it. It sort of reminded me of real life a little too much, where characters were sort of not getting along, and I deal with that on a regular basis. I found myself thinking about this book when I wasn't reading it, sort of troubleshooting like how to help people get along, and I was like, I don't want to do that in a book. I'd like to do that only in my real life. It was still really, really good. So 4 stars and highly recommend. Another 4-star, Can't Help Falling by Cara Bastone. This is book 2 of the Forever Yours series. I really did enjoy this. I will tell you though, I had a hard time with it because the narrator was so terrible. He reads all of the New York accents like a gangster from the 20s. See? And they're gonna do this. See? And we're gonna fall in love. See? I don't even think there was a dog. Was there a dog? I don't think there was. They just put a dog on that cover for no reason. Those stinkers. Anyway, we also have Seraphine St. Romain. She is from New Orleans, and unfortunately our narrator read her as Matthew McConaughey. All right, all right, all right. So that did kind of mess it up for me, but I tried very hard not to let the narrator impact the author's story. It was still very good. I didn't always love the way she treated him. He's head over heels for her, but she's a little standoffish because she's just too beautiful. People are always trying to date her because she's too gorgeous. Oh no, it's so hard. I don't know, that sounds terrible, doesn't it? She's also clairvoyant, which was really cool too. I loved learning about her crystals, and it was very interesting. He has a sister who winds up living with him. Again, we're sort of dealing with family dynamics and awkward relationships, which again, I don't really feel like dealing with that in books because I see that in my daily life. So people getting along, people saying the right thing or the wrong thing, like I just don't really feel like dealing with that in books. Not always my cup of tea, but a good story and very spicy. Because she is so spiritual, when they get together, it's like another level. It's like a spiritual spice. It was really good again. This woman can write a love scene. Good spice, good story. Not great narrator. My last 4-star was actually an ARC. This is going to be coming out in mid-August, called Skip to the End by Molly James. This is women's fiction. I had a hard time thinking about how I was going to rate this. As a romance novel, I would say I would give it like a 3 because there wasn't a lot of romance per se. As women's fiction, I'm going to give it a 4. And I'm going to rate it as a 4 on this channel because it was just such a good story. Our heroine can see how her relationship with someone will end when she kisses them, which was a really interesting premise. I really liked that. One night, she's at a wedding. She gets really drunk and she kisses 3 different guys. And so a lot of this book is her trying to figure out which guy was the one of the 3 who she ends up having the perfect relationship with. She's never had a perfect premonition before. So she spends most of the book having dates with interesting characters, trying to figure out which of the 3 guys is the man she kissed and who she's meant to spend the rest of her life with. This was very fun, very different, and I really enjoyed all of the friend group. But yes, it was very much women's fiction because it's also about her career and her friends and her mother, who is dealing with dementia. So that was kind of a more serious note as well. But I will say this was a good story and a satisfying ending and very interesting. My first 3.5-star book. I'm not rating Barbarian's Prize as 3.5 stars. That is a 5-star in my mind. But this one does have the honeymoon novella, and I did rate the other honeymoon novellas. Those came out individually. So I wanted to also rank the honeymoon novella for this book as its own novella because I feel like they deserve that. Although I did give it 3.5 stars. I mean, it's a good middle of the road book. I loved Saluk and Tiffany so much in Barbarian's Prize, which is why I gave the book 5 stars. He is like the perfect cinnamon roll hero. This novella though, I mean, it did deliver on that. It was like really heavy on spice, like extra heavy on spice, almost to the point where I was like, this feels like a bit much. And I've read a lot of Ice Planet Barbarians already. So, and it's always maybe a little much, but this was a lot much. Also, a lot of the story deals with her issue with his family, which felt a little bit contrived because they're all so sweet, but it was nice to see him continue to reassure her and help her heal. It wasn't my favorite storyline, but I am glad I got to revisit these two characters and their love. So 3.5 stars. I also gave Every Summer After by Carly Fortune 3.5 stars. This reminded me so much of Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren. I had a hard time. I was actually asking my friend Autumn from Nose in a Book, who had been talking about this and how she wasn't able to rate Every Summer After as highly as she did Love in Other Words. This was written after. It's so similar. It's dual timelines. It's a guy and a girl who are teenagers when they fall in love, and then something happens, and then she comes back to town. They meet again and they work through things, and will they end up together? It just felt very much like Love in Other Words remixed. It wasn't as powerful in my mind. It was good. I also had trouble really liking our heroine. Let me know if you read it and what you thought. My 2.5 star was an ARC, another advanced reader copy, anything but graceful. I was really excited when I heard about this. We have a woman who is in her early 50s and she gets a second shot at fame and love. It's a second chance romance with a guy that she fell in love with in college. I loved seeing her get these opportunities and getting to ruminate on the idea of like, what is success and what is fulfillment? What does that look like? Is it being on camera? Is it being on stage? Or is it just having friends? Or what does it mean to pursue your passion and live a full life? They glorify our particular body image, which I had a little bit of a hard time with. You can imagine as a ballerina what kind of body type they were very much glorifying. I didn't understand the way our heroine thought a lot of the time in both her past, because they cover this in the early 90s when she was in college, and we jump to the present day as well. She seemed kind, but often seemed really shallow. I was just like, okay. This is again women's fiction. This was really about her career. The ending too felt a little bit too like, we're gonna wrap this up with a bow and make you feel good. The theater elements are fun. The ballet elements are fun. I liked the way they jumped between timelines. I am glad that I experienced this book. It was really interesting and different, but it was a little darker than I would have liked. And if you're interested in theater, drama, dance, second chances at love, and fame, you might love this book. So give it a whirl. So one of my 2 stars was another ARC, an advanced reader copy. I just haven't picked them well lately, I guess. This is Ghosted. It's a YA romance. I was really excited because it's 2 teenagers. They're in this school. It's called Northanger Abbey. It's actually a gender-flipped present-day retelling in the United States of Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen, which I was like, score! This is going to be amazing. Like you recognize some of the character names. It was really neat, but ultimately a story that was supposed to be about 2 teenagers falling in love while they research ghosts at this school, which sounded super fun. It was more about ghosts that haunt you metaphorically, as in this poor thing, her father passed away years ago and she hasn't healed at all. Her family is extremely dysfunctional and barely holding it together. A lot of the time you just read this thinking, you just need a little therapy. You just need to communicate. It was just stressful, not very fun. I loved our hero. He was terrific and I love how good he was for her. So there's healing that happens within the family, within her, the relationship. There were elements that were a little bit fun, but there were some mean girls in the high school. So that wasn't my favorite either, which I guess is why I gave this 2 stars. My other 2 star is Willas Beast. This is Ice Home Book 3. I really didn't like this very much. There were characters that I did enjoy, but Willa makes some questionable decisions, such as harming one of the characters that we have grown to know and love so that she can escape with a beast. He is a genetically engineered gladiator who has some issues. There is so much spice in this book that it got to a point where it was like, this is too much. At one point I was listening, I was starting to eat something and I was like, ah, it was too much. It was too much. There was also the backstories, both of them. Their backstories were very dark, which include animal cruelty, which is if you've heard me before, that's a real no-go for me. I really have a hard time hearing about any types of animal cruelty. So this was a really hard book to get through, and I did give it 2 stars because there were elements that were really good. There were characters that I enjoyed, and there were parts of the plot that were interesting. But yeah, I think if I reread this entire series again, I'm gonna skip this one. My 1 star is one that I hated to give 1 star, but ultimately I don't know how else I could score it. It's called One Season with the Duke by Addie Dulac. I was so excited about this originally. Seeing an African American in a historical romance was so exciting, and the cover is gorgeous. I requested the arc right away. Our hero wants to save her from her cousin who wants to marry her just for her inheritance. Her cousin is planning on blackmailing her for a special reason, but as I said, our hero wants to save her from her terrible cousin and offers to marry her. The first 30% of this book were adorable. I loved it so much. And it was interesting because the first 30% basically felt like an entire book. I was confused as to what even was going to happen after the first 30% because we have this lovely lady. She has a villain who's trying to blackmail her. Then we find this man who is a childhood friend of hers who has secretly been pining for her forever. He decides to save her by marrying her and whisking her away to his castle in Scotland. The end, right? Well, no, it gets much worse. This guy who appeared to be a cinnamon roll hero, upon finding out her secret, which was so paper thin, the reason that she was being blackmailed, he becomes a rage monster. He slaps her hands away when she tries to hug him. That really bothered me. And then he proceeds to treat her terribly. In fact, this poor woman I feel like she's verbally abused by most of the people in the book for like half the time. And it got to a point where he was so horrific to her that even in the end, as you know, it's a romance, so I'm not giving anything away. In the end, when they wind up together, I couldn't even be happy about it. I just felt like, what's going to happen the next time he gets mad? He was so mercurial. His character changed so dramatically. I have never seen this in a romance novel before. It was disturbing. And even though I loved the first 30%, the way that he completely changed and the monster that he became over something that seemed very small ruined the first 30% for me. I would love to see a do-over with this storyline because our girl Hattie really deserved better than she got in this book. Well, those were my books. I had so much fun telling you about them. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're enjoying whatever it is you're reading. Until next time, thanks so much. Take care. Bye.